Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com. The card we've been making today is from the A Wash in Beauty suite, which is in the May 22 to April 23 annual catalogue. You'll find it on pages 66 to 67. The papers in the suite are called A Wash with Beauty, and they are 12 by 12 inch sheets, 30.5 by 30.5 centimeters. So they're all floral patterns. This is the stamp set called True Beauty, and there is a set of dies that coordinate with it. You get this trellis die, and these dies will fit the stamped images for these flowers here. There's the leaf, the stem, 3 flowers, and this sprig. And there's 2 of this one, so you can cut double the amount with just one pass through the machine. And these are the extra ones, they're sort of sprigs. Now on this sheet of paper, you can cut these out. And the leaf, this. So you can see these dies will cut out all these flowers here. So I've die cut almost a whole sheet of designer series paper. That's what I've got left of the sheet, because I wanted the plain background to make the metric version of this card. And last of all, there are the iridescent pearl basic jewels in the collection. It has a belly band and it's a fun fold, and it's got floating panels. So if you look at it from the top, this is what it looks like. The mechanism for attaching the larger floating panels is integral with the card base, which is this piece here. Okay, and this one, for the smaller floating panels, you need basic white, which is a lighter weight cardstock than the basic white thick. So you use that for the floating mechanisms for the smaller panels. And to keep it all shut, because the card is so bulky, I've created a belly band. The inks I'm using are Mossy Meadow, Merry Merlot and So Saffron. You also need the Stylish Shapes dies. I've cut the second largest circle, one in Mossy Meadow and one in basic white. You also need a belly band to close the card with, and this is 1.5 inch strip band A4 length, and in metric that will be 3.5 by an A4 length. A scrap of gold foil and this die from the Organic Beauty dies to die cut a sprig. For the inside of the card, you need a piece in Mossy Meadow, which measures 3 5/8 inches by 5.5. In metric, that's 9 centimeters by 14 centimeters. Then the second layer for the inside of the card is in basic white, and that's 3.5 by 5 3/8. In metric, that's 8.5 by 13.5 centimeters. Now for the card base, a piece that is 7 inches by 5 7/8 inches, and in metric that's 18 centimeters by 14.85 centimeters. On the long side, score at 1/2 inch and 1.5 inches. Rotate your cardstock 180 degrees and score the other side at 1/2 inch and 1.5 inches. Then on the short side at 1/2 inch, score until the first score line, and then flip it over this way and score at 1/2 inch down to that first score line. On the long side in metric, you score at 1.5 and 4 centimeters, rotate it 1.5, 4 centimeters. Then on the short side, score at 1.5 down to that first score line, flip it over and repeat 1.5 to the first score line. Now you want to cut at the score line here on the 1.5 centimeter piece, and then cut diagonally from the 1.5 to this score line here. Okay, and repeat for this side. Reinforce the score lines. Now glue this piece into the inside of your card. Take your inside matte layer and stamp in So Saffron. Changing pads to Mossy Meadow. I'm going to stamp off first because this is a bit dark. And I'm going to stamp with Love along here. Then I'm going to glue this piece to the inside. Now when you're cutting your main panel, on the other half of the basic white thick cardstock, you can cut up 2 large panels, and both of these measure 2 inches by 5 7/8 inches, and in metric that's 5 centimeters by 14.85. And you want to cut the matte layers for the designer series paper onto here. Now if you want a continuous pattern, add the sum total of the 2 panels together by the length, which is 5 5/8. So 1 3/4 plus 1 3/4 will be 2 1/2. In metric that will be either 4.5 centimeters by 14.35, but if you want a continuous pattern, then you can cut it at 9 centimeters by 14.35 and then cut that in half. That as a nondescript pattern on the back so it doesn't clash with your front. So let's glue that to the larger floating panels for the card front. Now you want to attach the large floating panel to the card front. So put adhesive on here and align that left edge of the large panel with the fold on your card. Okay, that's why we've cut that at an angle. It just makes for a neater finish. So squash that down and put that so that it is flush with the base of the card. Remember, it's the same size, so you've got a bit of wiggle room, and you want to make sure that that is equidistant, so that there's no gap in here. So repeat for this side. And take your other panel, make sure that there's no gap, and then squash it down and hold it down until it bonds. So that's your first floating panel done. The remaining bit of your basic white thick paper, this is all cut from one sheet of basic white thick. You'll need the 2 smaller floating panels, and these measure 1 1/2 by 5 1/2 each. So in metric that's 4 centimeters by 14 centimeters. Then you want to cut a piece of designer series paper. So this will be a bolder pattern, and it's 2 1/2 by 5 1/4. So that's in metric that will be 7 centimeters by 13.5 centimeters, and you cut each strip in half. So this will be 1 1/4, I think. Yeah, 1 1/4. 1 1/4 by 5 1/4. So let's glue the designer series paper to the front panel. To set those aside, we want the floating mechanism for the smaller panels, and this is in just plain basic white, which is the lighter weight cardstock, and this measures 1.5 inches by 4 3/4 inches. For the metric one, this will measure 4 centimeters by 12 centimeters, and you score the imperial one at 1/2 inch and 1 inch on the short side. For the metric, you score at 1.5 and 3 centimeters, and then you'll have a shorter panel here. Okay, so let's score that. So it's 1/2 inch and 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 1 inch. So let's reinforce the score lines in a concertina shape like so. You want them opening in different directions, so you want this one to pull outwards that way. So mark it to say that's the left, so you don't get it confused. Left, and that is the bit that you glue to your large floating panel. So this is the bit that is adhered to the floating panel like so, yeah? On this one, it has to pull out toward the right. So mark that right, and this is the bottom right, so that's the bit you want to glue to the floating panel on the right. So it's the same principle with the metric measurement. I want to show you that it's the bottom right, which is the narrower side, that you want to glue to your panel. So this is the large panel, and you glue it, say about 1/8 of an inch or 0.5 centimeters, and you want this flush with the bottom of your card. Then you put adhesive on here, and this folds out. So you want this lined up with that panel. Now we're going to do the mechanism for the imperial one. So you have your left side and your right side. They open in opposite directions. Okay, so put glue on the L left back, and you want it about 1/8 of an inch in, and you want the bottom flush with the bottom of the card. Okay, then you want to glue the panel on, so apply adhesive to the top of your floating mechanism, and make sure which side your pattern's going. So this is the left side. Flush with this side. When it pulls out, you don't see the mechanism behind it. Now we'll do the right hand panel. So bottom right, that's where the glue goes, and you want to get the glue right on the fold here. Just a little bit in, because the glue will spread, and then again 1/8 of an inch in, and align it with the bottom of the card. I'm going to use my bone folder to make sure that it is stuck properly. Reinforce that fold, apply adhesive on the fold to make sure that it's going to hold. Line that up, make sure it's flush with the bottom. So that's the base of the card done. Now we want to do the belly band. First we need to do a little bit of stamping. So I'm going to stamp on my basic die cut circle, and stamp it about there. I'm going to stamp the leaf. I need to stamp off first before stamping on. Stamp the flower in So Saffron. I think I might do the leaf again because it didn't come out very well. There's a line across it. And I want to stamp the letters as well. Now I'm going to fussy cut these letters. Now I'll die cut these off camera, and for this I'll need the standard sandwich for die cutting, which is platform 1, platform 2, the thin die adapter, one of the platform 3s, the cardstock, the die cutting edge face down, and a second platform 3, and then I'm ready to run it through the machine. Now I've die cut it and put dimensionals on the back of the 2 words and the flower. I want to attach my belly band, so you just wrap it round and find the fold and put adhesive on one side and adhesive on this side, and maybe just a little bit on the side here. Bring that over and attach it. So make sure that it's still running freely, and that goes round the back. Do it from the back because it's too bulky on the front. So put that, the right side, face down. No, actually, I'll put some glue on there as well. Lift that up so the glue doesn't touch the circle, not until you're ready to glue it down. Make sure it's equidistant top and bottom. Then you can put this piece on, the bit that you've stamped on. Use that as a guide to put your glue on. Do that to the circle so that the mossy meadow circle doesn't show. The sprig, so just put a little bit of glue on the sprig to keep it down. I think I've removed all of them. I want to stamp a little flower on there. Oh bother, I forgot to press record. I've stamped here, then I've put dimensionals on this big flower here, and then attached it to the card. I'm going to add another flower here. So now I'm ready to put the belly band on the front of the card instead, and I can put my words on. The last finishing touch is a couple of pearls, iridescent pearls down here. For the metric card, I just used all the designer series paper that I die cut the flowers from, which looks just as nice as the finished card on the Imperial one where I stamped instead. So there's the metric one. The attachment is slightly different for the floating panel. On the smaller panel it's uneven, so you adhere, just a reminder, adhere the narrowest panel to the floating panel on the back. So I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. As I said before, there's a lot of cutting, but it's so worth it in the end. Thanks for joining me today. All the supplies are below this video in the Show More section. You can also find me on Facebook, Pinterest or Instagram. If you'd like to read more, then do hop over to my blog. The link is also below this video in the Show More section. And if you like it, do give me a thumbs up, like and share. I'd be ever so grateful. Thanks for watching. Bye.